Morning mist hung heavy over Wilmette, Chicago's upscale residential neighborhood. At 5 a.m., before sunrise, Melissa Wilson quietly slipped out of bed. 3 days a week, she needed to leave at this hour for early morning experiments. Balancing her responsibilities as a researcher and a mother had been her proud daily routine. Before leaving the bedroom, she glanced at her husband Thomas. He'd been coming home late recently, and seemed more tired than usual, breathing deeply in his sleep. His new designer pajamas peeked slightly from under the blanket. Last month he'd bought a new Rolex, and spent weekends shopping at Nordstrom. Since his promotion at Smart Tech, his spending habits had noticeably changed. Walking down the hallway, she peeked into her 8-year-old daughter Emma's room. She couldn't help but smile at her angel-like sleeping face. On the bedside table lay her report card from school yesterday. All excellent grades, with a teacher's comment noting her as a model student. 1 year after passing the rigorous entrance exam for Francis W. Parker School, Emma was living up to all expectations. While preparing breakfast in the kitchen, Melissa reflected on last night's events. Thomas's reaction to Emma's report card had seemed distant. Though he said, as expected of our genius, his eyes never left his smartphone. Before, he would have hugged Emma in celebration. She efficiently prepared breakfast at the marble kitchen counter. Making sandwiches with organic vegetables and turkey from Whole Foods Market, she added some fruit on the side. The whiteboard on the refrigerator was filled with this week's schedule: Emma's piano lessons, PTA meetings, Sunday Mass at Fourth Presbyterian Church, and in red ink, anniversary dinner with Thomas. However, Thomas had announced last night that he had an important business dinner with clients. Melissa quickly made the sandwiches and packed them in thermal containers. Emma's portion was slightly larger than usual. She had choir practice after school today. If the experiments finished on schedule, she should be able to pick up her daughter afterward. Last week, work had run long and she'd kept Emma waiting. This week, she was determined to be on time. While putting on her leather shoes in the entryway, her eyes caught the family photo on the wall. It was taken 2 Christmas seasons ago, with the magnificent Miles illuminations as a backdrop. Emma laughing in Thomas's arms. All 3 of them looking genuinely happy. That night, they'd celebrated at Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse, talking about their future as a family. Emma's eyes had sparkled as she declared, "I want to be a doctor like Mom and help people." But now, that photo felt like a distant memory. Thomas's newly acquired BMW. The sudden increase in late-night engagements. The scent of new cologne. His slightly panicked response to smartphone notifications. Each small change had been building into a sense of unease. As she boarded the first metro train of the day, Melissa let out a deep sigh. She had earned her PhD from the University of Chicago and now worked as a senior researcher at a major pharmaceutical company along the Magnificent Mile. As team leader for Alzheimer's treatment research, she faced new challenges daily. She took pride in balancing work and family. Though she couldn't be a perfect mother, she believed Emma was growing up healthy and their family bonds were secure. Looking at her reflection in the train window, Melissa renewed her determination. Both her current drug research and time with family were important. This weekend, she would definitely take Emma to Lincoln Park Zoo. She'd invite Thomas too. At 8 p.m. on Friday, Melissa opened the front door with tired steps, her final experiment data verification having run longer than planned. The rain that had started in the evening had intensified, and the street trees swayed in the wind. "I'm home." Emma's usual "welcome back" didn't echo through the house. Instead, only the living room lights were unnaturally bright. Unfamiliar men's shoes in the entryway. Expensive leather shoes leaving water droplets on the floor. Walking toward the living room in her heels, she saw Thomas sitting on the sofa. Next to him sat an unfamiliar middle-aged man in a gray suit, holding a thick envelope. The atmosphere was unusually heavy. On the coffee table, half-empty coffee cups suggested they'd been waiting for her return for some time. "So you finally came home." Thomas's voice lacked its usual warmth. His eyes were cold, as if looking at a stranger. "Who is this person?" When Melissa asked, the middle-aged man stood up and offered his business card. The card was printed on expensive paper with embossed lettering. "I'm Charles Johnson from Professional Investigation Services." "Detective." The word echoed in her mind. Melissa felt her breathing become slightly irregular. The sensation was similar to encountering unexpected data in the laboratory. "Where's Emma?" Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke her child's name. "Don't worry. She's with my mother." Thomas answered curtly. His eyes held an unusual gleam. His expensive new tie glowed oddly under the fluorescent lights. "What is this about? What is this about? Your betrayal has been proven. Look at this." The thick envelope was slammed onto the coffee table, photos spilling across the floor. Melissa picked one up. Her movement was as careful as handling a pipette in the laboratory. It showed her lying with an unknown man in a suite at the Chicago Ritz-Carlton. The date marked was 3 Saturdays ago. Through the window, the distinctive silhouette of the John Hancock Center was visible. "Remember now? The day you said you had an important meeting with colleagues and left the house." Thomas's voice was ice cold. The family photo on the wall behind them seemed to look down on the situation. Melissa silently studied the photo. The elegant hotel interior, the large bed, and indeed a woman who looked very much like her. But something was off. Her researcher's intuition caught the discrepancy. "Will I have a chance to explain?" Melissa's voice was calmer than expected. The self-control she'd developed through years of research was working. "Not necessary." Thomas barked. His expensive brand watch caught the light as his arm moved. "I'm demanding a DNA test. And I won't give up Emma's custody." Detective Johnson cleared his throat and began presenting new evidence. Hotel security camera footage. Cross-reference with Melissa's workplace entry records. Contact history with the alleged lover. The evidence piled up one after another, creating a small mountain of dark files on the table. Melissa slowly sat down and carefully examined each photo, as if analyzing important data in her laboratory. Outside the window, the rain grew stronger. "Get out tonight," Thomas commanded. His voice carried an unfamiliar urgency. "I've already contacted a lawyer. If you agree to divorce without compensation, we can keep this quiet." "As you say." Melissa finally spoke. Her voice was clear and unwavering, like when presenting experimental results. "Let's verify the truth." At those words, Thomas's expression twisted momentarily. His fingers unconsciously touching his expensive watch trembled slightly. "I'll accept both the DNA test and analysis by photo experts. However." Melissa stood up and took out her iPhone from her bag. The screen showed her latest selfie with Emma. "I'll be consulting with my lawyer as well. Get out of this house right now." Thomas's voice echoed through the room. It sounded somehow theatrical. "You'll never see Emma again. I could send these photos to her school." "I understand." Melissa picked up another photo and held it up to the light. Her gaze was sharp, like examining a sample under laboratory precision equipment. "Tonight. Or else." "I understand." Melissa answered calmly again. Her composure seemed to be unsettling Thomas. "I'll pack my things. However, this is a temporary measure. Until the court's decision." While climbing the stairs, Melissa stopped in front of her daughter's room. Emma's smiling photo was posted on the door. A handmade photo frame with the words, "World's Best Mom." Next to it, her recent science test with an A+ grade. "I will reveal the truth," she vowed silently as she began packing the minimum necessary belongings into her suitcase. In Melissa's mind, a plan to uncover the truth was already quietly but surely taking shape. Gray skies covered the high-rise buildings along the Magnificent Mile. A week had passed since the separation. Melissa sighed deeply while looking out the laboratory window. "Ms. Wilson, have you heard the rumors?" Whispers from colleagues echoed from across the lab. When she turned toward the feeling of eyes on her, several researchers hurriedly looked away. She recalled conversations exchanged in the pharmaceutical company's hallway yesterday. That serious-looking person. Even though she has a child. Friday morning's lab meeting. The department head suddenly interrupted her presentation. "Dr. Wilson, we'd prefer that personal issues not affect your work." She knew better than anyone that there was nothing wrong with her data. Still, she wasn't given a chance to defend herself. Returning to her small apartment in River North, she saw the pile of documents on her desk. A mountain of materials sent by her lawyer, Carol Brown. Trial preparation documents, property division calculations, and custody petition papers. On the refrigerator hung a handwritten letter from Emma. "Mom, when are you coming back? Grandma's house is boring. Is Dad angry?" Anxiety seeped through every word. "Sunday worship at Fourth Presbyterian Church." Melissa sat alone in the seat where the family of 3 usually sat. During the sermon, she could hear regular churchgoers nearby whispering gossip. After the service, the pastor spoke to her kindly, but his eyes held a look of sympathy. Parent-teacher meeting at Francis W. Parker School. As soon as Melissa appeared, surrounding mothers' conversations stopped. Emma's classmate's mother hurriedly stood up. The rumors must be spreading among the children too. The photo analysis results are in. At Carol Brown's office, she received the expert's report. Digital image analysis expert Sarah Jenkins's report pointed out several unnatural aspects, though it hadn't reached decisive evidence. We've heard from Lisa Collins, Smarteca's secretary. Carol's voice held a hint of hope. Someone willing to testify about your husband's relationship with a young secretary. At that moment, Melissa's smartphone rang. It was Emma's school. Your daughter is complaining of feeling unwell. We tried contacting her grandmother. Rushing to school, she found Emma curled up on the infirmary bed. I wanted to see Mom. Her daughter's body trembled slightly as she hugged her. That night, Melissa examined the photos again. Her scientific intuition was catching on to something. The Ritz-Carlton logo, the bed arrangement, the view from the window. Each piece was slowly starting to fit together. A luxury apartment in River North, near Thomas's company. Photos taken by a private investigator showing a young woman coming and going. A woman's back view in flashy dress carrying luxury brand bags. They've filed for visitation restrictions. An email from Carol. Thomas's side had submitted new photos as evidence. If you don't agree to withdraw, these will be sent to Emma's school. Melissa closed her eyes deeply. As a researcher, her thoughts moved between mother's instinct and scientific evidence. The answer was surely approaching. The DNA test date has been set. Notice from the court. Testing was ordered at Chicago City Hospital. As soon as the date was seen, Thomas's side submitted a postponement request. The reason given is overseas business travel. A slight smile appeared in Carol's voice. But the court denied the postponement. The high-rise apartment in River North. In surveillance camera footage, Thomas had his arm around a young woman's waist. The date matched the day the problematic photos were supposedly taken. The truth was now right before her eyes. Melissa quietly opened her laptop and began organizing new evidence. Like writing a research paper, she carefully built up each fact. Cook County Circuit Court. Tension filled the 11th floor courtroom of the Daly Center from early morning. Each time the heavy wooden doors opened, people in the gallery leaned forward. This was a crucial date scheduled for DNA test result disclosure and evidence examination regarding infidelity. First to enter the courtroom were Melissa and attorney Carol Brown. Dressed in a simple navy suit, Melissa maintained the same calm demeanor as if she were in her laboratory. She sat straight-backed, methodically arranging documents on the table. Next appeared Thomas and his lawyer. His usual haughty attitude had subsided, his face pale. His supposedly new Armani suit appeared unusually wrinkled. Thin sweat already beaded on his forehead. In the gallery sat Detective Johnson. Next to him, Sarah Jenkins, the photo analysis expert, was doing final checks on her computer screen. Across from them sat Lisa Collins, Smarteca's former secretary, anxiously wringing her hands. "All rise." Judge Margaret O'Connor entered. Known as a distinguished judge in family cases with 40 years of experience. Let's begin with the DNA test results. The sound of Judge O'Connor opening the envelope echoed through the courtroom. Thomas's hand trembling became visibly stronger. His lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to restrain him. The test results confirm with 99.9999% probability that Emma Wilson is the biological child of Melissa Wilson and Thomas Wilson. Thomas's face gradually turned ashen. Next, regarding the photo analysis results. Sarah Jenkins took the witness stand. The problematic photos were projected onto the screen. These photos show multiple significant signs of manipulation. Jenkins explained carefully, avoiding technical terms. First, the angle of the John Hancock Center visible from the hotel window is physically impossible. Given the actual building positions, the building cannot be seen from this angle. A small murmur arose in the courtroom. Furthermore, the direction of the subject's shadows is inconsistent. Given the sun's position at the recorded time, such shadows cannot occur. Thomas's shoulders slumped. Most decisively, this. The screen image changed. The hair outline of the person alleged to be Melissa. Here we see characteristic traces of image processing software. These are typical artifacts that occur when combining an image cut from another photo. Lisa Collins was called as the next witness. Thomas Wilson has been in an affair with Jennifer Parker, a young company secretary, since last September. Her voice trembled but was clear. Ms. Parker was pressuring Mr. Wilson for marriage. She threatened to expose their relationship if the divorce wasn't finalized. The courtroom erupted in commotion. Carol stood up to submit new evidence. Security camera footage from the luxury apartment in River North. It shows Thomas Wilson and Jennifer Parker entering a room at the exact same time the problematic photos were allegedly taken. Thomas's face visibly contorted. Furthermore, testimony from someone at the detective agency. Carol produced new documents. Thomas Wilson paid a total of $150,000 for photo manipulation and false testimony. Judge O'Connor frowned while reviewing the documents. This is a serious matter. Photo forgery, suborning perjury, criminal charges must be considered. At this moment, the courtroom doors quietly opened. Emma's grandmother entered with Emma. Learning of her daughter-in-law's innocence, she had decided to let Emma see Melissa. Melissa smiled gently at her daughter before turning forward again. At that moment, Thomas stood up. "I admit it." His voice was hoarse. "It was all my doing." The courtroom fell silent again. "I intended to marry Jennifer. But with a normal divorce, I'd lose half my assets. And Emma's custody." Thomas's voice broke. "The photos are all manipulated. Melissa did nothing wrong." Judge O'Connor fixed Thomas with a stern gaze. "Perjury, defamation, evidence tampering, these are serious crimes. The judgment was clear. Divorce granted. Property division heavily favoring Melissa. Full custody of Emma granted to Melissa. Criminal charges against Thomas were suggested. Outside the courtroom, Emma ran to Melissa. Mother and daughter held each other tightly. Behind them, spring sunlight streamed through the Daily Center's large windows. 6 months after the judgment, in autumn, a new family story was beginning in Wilmette's quiet residential area. Melissa and Emma had settled into a new home near their previous house. A white exterior with a dark green roof, the small front yard blooming with colorful flowers Emma had chosen. "Mom, look!" Emma rushed in from school, holding out a test paper. Perfect score in science. Her grades had temporarily dropped during last year's turmoil, but had remarkably recovered over these 6 months. Now she was more vibrant than ever. "That's my girl." Melissa embraced her daughter tenderly. Warm dinner for 2 was ready on the kitchen island counter. Home-cooked meals made with fresh ingredients from Whole Foods Market. She now had time to prepare elaborate menus that she couldn't manage before when overwhelmed with work. "Hey, can we go to Lincoln Park Zoo next weekend?" Emma asked with a mouthful of pasta. "Of course. But first, don't you want to see the new laboratory?" Melissa smiled. After the trial, her achievements at the pharmaceutical company were recognized with a promotion to Deputy Director of Research. She now led a team developing new Alzheimer's treatment drugs. A new family photo hung on the living room wall. It showed Melissa and Emma, and surprisingly, Melissa's parents as well. The incident had helped repair their previously distant relationship with her family. Oh, a call from Samantha. Emma picked up her smartphone. Samantha was Emma's new best friend. Meeting her, who was also being raised by a single mother, had become a source of emotional support for Emma. After ending the call, Emma started her homework. The room that was once her father's study had been renovated into a bright study room where mother and daughter studied together. "Hey Mom, I want to be a researcher," Emma suddenly said. "I want to be someone who finds the truth, like you." Melissa felt tears welling up in her eyes. Meanwhile, Thomas was serving time in prison. He had received a 2-year sentence for perjury and evidence tampering. Immediately fired from Smart Tech, his mistress Jennifer had also disappeared. Disowned by his parents and having completely lost his social credibility. On the other hand, Melissa's life showed new fulfillment. On weekends, she and Emma would visit the Chicago Art Institute or ride boats at Navy Pier. They cherished their mother-daughter time together. At Fourth Presbyterian Church, she had started a support group for single mothers. She wanted to help other mothers in similar situations by sharing her experience. "Melissa, your new paper got great reviews," her colleague Jane called out. She was one of the few colleagues who had consistently supported Melissa during that turbulent time. Now they were close friends. "Hey Mom." One night, Emma asked before bed. "Will we always be happy?" "Of course." Melissa gently stroked her daughter's hair. "Because we have each other." Outside the window, Chicago's night view sparkled. The lights of the John Hancock Center, Navy Pier's Ferris wheel, and moonlight reflecting on Lake Michigan. Everything seemed to be celebrating their new beginning. One holiday morning, while heading to Whole Foods Market together, Emma pointed at the sky. "Mom, a rainbow." Melissa looked up at the sky, holding her daughter's hand. Indeed, a beautiful rainbow arched over Chicago's skyscrapers. It looked like a sign of hope, announcing the beginning of a new story.